Hello, today is Monday, January 29th, and welcome to episode 291 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. I'm NSI's founder and executive director, Jamil Jaffer. I'm joined today by NSI senior fellows Lester Munson and Morgan Vina. So today we are talking about the tragic death of 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan and the injuries to numerous others at a outpost near the Jordanian-Syrian border. This attack, unsurprisingly, conducted by Iranian-backed militias in the region. The president and the Secretary of Defense have both been clear that these attacks will not stand, that a U.S. response is forthcoming at a time and place of our choosing, according to the Secretary of Defense. So, Morgan, you've just come hot off the press from doing a television interview on these issues. Talk to us about what you see going on. What's the current situation on the ground? And what do you expect the U.S. response to look like?
After 3.5 months of the United States taking on fire from Iranian-backed groups in Iraq, Syria, off the coast of Yemen, I think, unfortunately, it was only a matter of time before we saw U.S. casualties here. Clearly, this is tragic, but it's also the direct result of the United States not just completely losing all deterrence in the region. The Biden administration has declared that, it does not want to escalate tensions. Well, newsflash, Iran does. And until the United States really hits the regime itself as opposed to the proxies, I think we're going to continue to see Iran operate unabated.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, look at this idea that Iran can continue to back these attacks and not take it directly. We did, although, conduct a pretty serious strike in Baghdad against a leader of one of these groups. So we have taken the fight directly to them. It's clearly not working. Les, is there anything we could do short of a direct attack against Iran? I mean, President Trump did take out the leader of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Quds Force, Qasem Soleimani. Is that what we need to do, or is there something less that we could do that would actually create deterrence?
Well, I think the administration first needs to completely reconsider its approach to Iran. The real roots of this decision go back to the Obama administration. Many of the Biden policymakers, almost all of them, came out of the Obama administration. There was a real effort to pull Iran into the international community of nations, which it turns out, which some of us knew at the time, but it turns out is a thing that will not work at all. So it was this critical error made at the beginning of the Biden administration, if not many years earlier by the Obama administration. That whole policy needs to be reconsidered. They need to take a very hard look at the maximum pressure campaign that the Trump administration imposed on Iran and returning to that. And then in terms of immediate response to this terrible event that happened on the Jordanian border, I think the administration needs to be very careful and very deliberate and very intentional about what its next steps are. A lashing out against random targets of the Iranians is not appropriate. Recall when the Clinton administration bombed a pharmaceutical factory in Sudan after al-Qaeda hit our embassies in East Africa to no effect whatsoever. Let's be smart. If we have to wait a few weeks to do this the right way, I'm okay with that. I think the administration needs to show real seriousness of purpose and a real deliberate process of decision-making here to do things that will deter Iran. So I'm willing to wait a little bit for the best response rather than an immediate lashing out. But I think the fundamental thing is there needs to be a total reconsideration of the administration's approach to the region.
Well, I think that's right as well. I mean, Jake Sullivan, obviously one of the architects of the Iran nuclear deal that really wasn't effective and President Trump rightly walked away from. So, Morgan, I mean, Les seems to think we can wait and if we want to get the right strike. Do you agree? Should we take our time, find the right target, be deliberate about it? I'm inclined to sort of strike in the near future because American troops are on the ground today. There are going to be more attacks. If we don't push back now, we run the risk that more American troops will be killed in the near future. Morgan, what do you think about that?
Let's be clear. If the U.S. intelligence community and the DoD don't actually have a list of targets drawn up, then they're not doing their job, right? They should have been planning for this months ago, particularly right after 10/7. They should have known that this was going to happen. And as a result, I mean, I think if we don't have a list of targets, they need to be drawn up real fast, quick, and in a hurry, and then we need to launch those strikes. Iran needs to clearly has not gotten the message yet. And this administration, it is incumbent upon them to reestablish that deterrence and, quite frankly, hit them harder so that they don't hit us back.
Can I just jump in here, Jamil, and say I've got zero confidence that the administration has done what Morgan has described. This is a senior level policymaking apparatus that did not know the Secretary of Defense was in the hospital for days. It is not clear to me at all that they're capable of responsible decision making in a quick time frame. So I think our we should give them based on their demonstrated incompetence, a little bit of time to figure out how to do the right thing, because I think they're kind of starting from zero.
One aspect that I don't think we've really sort of touched on yet, but I think related, is that Iran knows exactly what they're doing here. They're being incredibly strategic by striking U.S. targets in Jordan. Jordan is a key U.S. partner, military partner. We provide them a buttload of security assistance. And I think it's pretty telling that they went after the United States in Jordan, in friendly territories to the United States, but which also has a significant Palestinian population and has also demonstrated clear sympathies towards the people in Gaza, and quite frankly has shown some preference to some Hamas sympathies as well. So I think it's really fascinating to see Iran hit the United States in a country that is very close to us from a military perspective, but is also forcing the government to choose between the politics as well.
No, I think you're exactly right, Morgan. Unless if you and Morgan are right that they don't have or if you're right that they don't actually have a plan right now, that is catastrophic. Not just because they should have been coming up with since 10/7, but these attacks have been going on for months, long before 10/7, years in fact, going back to the time when we actually had a large number of troops on the ground in Iraq and Syria, and Iran was giving Kataib, Hezbollah, and Ansar al-Haq explosive form penetrators. So we know they've been doing this for a long time. They've been killing Americans for a long time. It's outrageous. It needs to come to a stop. And that's a wrap. Thanks so much to Devlin Burney, Claude Jennings, and the NSI gang for their help in producing today's episode. Join us again on Wednesday, January 31st, for another episode of Fault Lines, the podcast that gets you smart fast on the foreign policy and national security debates shaking up America. Also, follow us on YouTube and check out our video for today's episode. If you like what you see or heard, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.